Hey guys, what's up, it's iFlynn here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts and impressions on both the VIP and open demo for Anthem. Before we jump into the meat and potatoes of this video, I want to let you guys know that I'm in the camp of being excited for Anthem, but just because I'm excited for the game does not mean that I'm going to overlook or try to defend any of the glaring issues that both the demos had. I'm going to split this video into 3 parts: the demo experience, the gameplay experience, and what I personally expect to see from the game come launch day and later down the line. Starting with the demo experience, this demo should never have been called a demo, plain and simple. A demo is supposed to give the consumer a taste of what the final product is going to be like. This demo was riddled with bugs and glitches that absolutely ruined the gameplay experience. The developers kept on tweeting out on Twitter that a lot of the bugs or glitches that we experienced in the demo was because we were playing on an old build of the game and that everything will be fixed on launch day. I find this very hard to believe because there are some pretty glaring issues that came up that either A, completely ruined the immersion of the game, or B, stopped my overall progression. Let's start at the very beginning, launch day for the VIP demo. When the VIP demo launched, which keep in mind myself and many other players paid to gain access to, I spent, I want to say, up to 2 hours on the main menu just trying to get into the game. So from the get-go, the game gives the impression that it's not going to have very stable servers come launch day, and it was not just the Anthem servers that were having issues. When the demo went up and the initial wave of players got in, soon after, all of the EA services servers, including EA Help, Origin, etc., all went down. A VIP demo launch for a game was able to take down not just the game's own servers, but EA's almost as a whole. I don't feel like I can even express through this video how ridiculous that is for a paid VIP demo from a AAA publisher. It is honestly inexcusable, and I disagree with anyone that says, oh, but it's just a demo, it's just a stress test. That argument would fly if it was a free demo, but it wasn't. So after giving it almost an entire day, I attempt to log back in again and I eventually get in, so you'd think that things would be smooth sailing from here on out, right? But no, instead we start to find more and more issues with the game, ranging from crashes, poor optimization, infinite loading screens, random disconnects, progression stopping bugs, and a plethora of visual and animation bugs, which all ruin the immersion and only cause frustration. I played what I could of the VIP demo, but I honestly couldn't really play too much without just logging off out of pure frustration over all of the connection issues that occurred. When the open demo came around, logging into the game was not an issue at all, but there were still the random disconnects, infinite loading screens, and everything else that I just mentioned. So yeah, it was great that they fixed the login issues, but what's the point in logging in if you can't even complete one stronghold or roam around in free play without getting disconnected, or having something ruin your immersion, or even stopping your own progression? I think for myself to take this game and the developers seriously, all of the issues that I just mentioned 100% have to be fixed upon launch day. The developers saying on Twitter, Reddit, or what have you that things will be fixed upon launch day is one thing, but actually fixing things is a completely different story. With a game as stunning looking as Anthem, even though people think that they've downgraded the graphics of the game since the E3 demo, it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of refinement for this game to live up to the quality that it's been marketed to have. Speaking about the graphics, let's move on to the gameplay portion of this video. On Origin, it says that I've clocked 19 hours on the VIP and open demo client alone. How much of that is actual gameplay and how much of it is loading screens, you could probably guess, and if not, I'll give you a hint. There was more loading screens than there was actual gameplay. In the demo, we had access to a few mid-game story missions that revolved around an NPC known as Matthias, who ends up messing up and having some bad things happen to him, and you have to go and fix it. I'll spare you the details because I understand that this is a BioWare game, and BioWare have a reputation for having good stories, so to avoid spoiling it for people, I won't talk too much about it other than to say it was just okay. It never really got me invested, but that could be because we were thrown directly into the middle of the game, so no real relationships between myself and any of the NPCs were really established. The actual story missions that we played weren't really anything to write the home about either. I found myself just mindlessly doing the objectives, completely ignoring all of the dialogue that was happening, and for the most part the missions were go here, interact with this thing, shoot the bad guys, and repeat. Occasionally there were objectives that were set up like puzzles where you had to match glowing lights, or you had to find and pick up these floating orbs and bring it back to your location. Now these types of things would be fine if Anthem wasn't a cooperative shooter with no text chat. This game is a live service that needs community building tools to survive. Yes, in the full game we're gonna have voice chat and stuff like that, but I don't think that there's been any word on text chat so far, so people who don't want to use voice chat or Discord are gonna feel alienated. On top of that, it's very frustrating to be in a squad with a player who has absolutely no idea how to do some of the easiest tasks in the game, like pick up a container and put it in the glowy thing. Because you aren't able to tell him how to do it, you have to stand there watching him run around in circles for about 15 minutes until his penny drops. Could you imagine playing Warframe with no text chat, not being able to communicate with other players, not being able to ask them why your gun deals 12 damage and why their gun deals 12,000 damage? Yeah, I thought not. After you completed the story missions, you had access to free play and a stronghold. The stronghold is what I played the most because I found it dropped the most loot. That's implying I was able to actually get to the end because of progression stopping bugs like doors not opening, crashing, infinite loading screens, and the list goes on. The stronghold could be split up into 3 different activities. The first activity is 2 sets of pick up the glowing balls and bring them back to a marked location. The second activity was go pick up these canisters that remove your ability to fly, take them to the blue pulsing orb, put them in, and then stand on this area for a bar to fill up so you can progress. And then the third activity was the boss fight. After completing the first and second activities, a chest will spawn in that will drop loot. Higher level loot will drop if you play the stronghold on higher difficulties. We had access to 3 difficulties: easy, which dropped mostly common or white gear, normal, which dropped mostly uncommon or green gear, and hard, which dropped mostly rare or blue gear. You were only able to see what gear you actually got from these chests or from a random pickup at the end of your play session, meaning when you go back to Fort Tarsus. In my opinion, that's actually a really smart move because it stops people from joining the mission and then leaving if they did not get the drop that they wanted from an enemy, for example, just to run it again and do the same thing. The loot system is probably Anthem's strongest point. Your Javelin is able to equip 2 weapons from any class, e.g. assault rifles, shotguns, snipers, etc. They have a strike system, which is one of your abilities, and an assault system, which is another one of your abilities. A support system, which is your supportive ability, and components, which are a multitude of different buffs, some of which are Javelin specific. It's a lot of stuff to farm and optimize, so if you're looking for a game to grind for better loot, you'll feel right at home with Anthem. Of course, we can't go too deep into build diversity in this video because we don't know what other kinds of equipment will be in the game until we actually have it, but I reckon there's going to be a meta established to use one ability with the other ability in most classes because the game has a mechanic known as priming and detonating. Priming is when you do something like freeze or ignite an enemy and then you use a detonating ability to pull off a combo. The game didn't really do a good job at explaining this mechanic. When you're picking your abilities, there will be a little icon indicating if the ability is a primer or a detonator. Some didn't have an icon at all, so it confused a lot of people. Using your abilities and setting up combos with them is most likely going to be your main source of damage while playing Anthem, as there is not really a heavy emphasis on shooting in the slightest. It didn't really feel that good at all. None of the weapons have any unique traits. The only one that I could even tell you to name off is the Devastator, which is the sniper rifle that shoots explosive rounds, but even in saying that, I'm not sure if that's the right name. The only reason that I remember that weapon is because it's the weapon that dealt the most damage and made my life easier during the demo. Just because none of the weapons that I got to use during the demo were memorable does not mean that the weapons later on in the game won't be, but we're just going to have to wait and see. If anything, I would like to see the weapons be designed in a similar way to how they are in Warframe, where most weapons have at least one memorable trait, like let's say for example the Boltor, it shoots bolts, it's in the name, that's why it's so easy to remember. The shooting needs a little bit more oomph to it. You don't get the same level of satisfaction shooting a heavy pistol in Anthem compared to shooting a hand cannon in Destiny, it's just nowhere near it. It's not really something that I can explain to you, you just kind of have to play it for yourself to get what I mean, but I feel like it's more because of the lack of good sound effects, recoil, and damage on all of the guns. I guess it wasn't helped by the fact that there's some pretty prevalent audio issues as well. Some audio cues would just be late or didn't happen at all, which was really immersion breaking. The only gameplay element that we haven't really touched on is movement. The overall movement system was fine, but if I had any criticism, it would be that some movements felt clunkier than others. Take for example playing the Interceptor, the fast-paced melee javelin. You would think that this type of javelin, because of its extra mobility in the form of a triple jump and a triple dash, zipping between enemies to melee them wouldn't be a problem. I can't really put my finger on it, but it's just not smooth. Like animation cancelling felt really wonky sometimes, I'd be pushed or teleported backwards for no reason, I don't always evade whenever I tell the game to evade, my melee didn't always land even if I was right up in the enemy's face, and same thing goes with melee abilities as well. These are problems for all of the javelins, it was just more noticeable on the Interceptor because I wanted to zip from enemy to enemy really fluidly and be able to melee them down. Flying is what you would expect it to be, it just takes a little bit of getting used to, but they say that they're going to change up how flying works on the PC version of the game come launch day. Because I briefly mentioned the Interceptor, let's talk about the different javelins. If you were a part of the VIP demo, you got to play as all four. I myself only played the Ranger, Storm, and Interceptor, as Colossus wasn't appealing to me. Ranger is your balance class who has decent mobility, armor, and shields. It's the only javelin out of the four who can use all four elemental damage types in their abilities as far as I know. The Ranger to me got very boring very quickly, but he looks cool, so I guess that's a plus. The Colossus is the only javelin out of the four who can use heavy weapons. He's supposed to be the tank, but he's rather squishy if you're not using the Colossus components. I never got to use him because he didn't really seem like my playstyle, so I can't really judge him too much. The Storm is the elementalist of Anthem. You can use him to easily prime and detonate a group of enemies in no time. He has bonus shields while hovering, and in my opinion it is going to be a must-have in every single group. The Interceptor is the fastest out of the four javelins, whose job is to get in, deal a lot of damage to a single VIP target or maybe multiple depending on your build, and then get out. Out of the four, the Interceptor was my favorite, Storm coming in second, the Ranger in third, and then Colossus. This game needs a lot of quality of life touch-ups. The biggest issue for me on PC was the menus. They were designed for consoles and it's extremely noticeable because you have to click every individual tab to open and close them. There's no FOV slider and there is an extreme amount of screen check. Even though I said a lot of bad stuff about the game, it's still a fun game to play. I'm criticizing it harshly because I want the game to be good, as it's a game as a service, meaning we're gonna be getting updates after the game initially launches for Origin Premier members on February the 15th. Now we're gonna move on to what I want from the game come its launch day and after it launches. I've already stated that I want all the issues that we experienced in the demo to be fixed. I'm pretty sure everyone does, but the other thing that people are currently up in arms about right now is the lack of endgame that there seems to be at launch, based off of interviews and statements made by the developers. Endgame starts as soon as you hit level 30. Reaching level 30 will allow you to play any content in the game at the 3 higher difficulties: Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3. As far as we know, the difficulties only increase enemy damage, health, and shield values rather than adding any additional modifiers or game mechanics. We have daily, weekly, and monthly trials, which are like challenges that you can focus on within a specific time period. We have contracts and legendary contracts, which are quick and more difficult bounties where you have to kill an enemy for some loot. And then we have the more difficult activities known as strongholds. There's only going to be 3 strongholds in the game. Strongholds are basically the equivalent to strikes in Destiny, and we've already got to play one of them in the demo. We've seen footage of other strongholds from other YouTubers and Anthem live streams. So we have daily, weekly, and monthly challenges, bounties, and strongholds, and then that is it. You can't argue that it is a short list, and I seriously hope the developers have an actual plan on what content they're going to be adding so we can be shown a roadmap or something so we have the motivation to continue playing past the game's main story. Anthem is supposedly a game with a 10-year plan. That does not mean that we're only going to have this game, Anthem. Destiny 1 was also a 10-year plan. A 10-year plan just means that the IP is going to be around for at least 10 years, not that the game that's released will have updates over the period of 10 years, even though that would be great. From a AAA developer, a game that costs $60 up front and will have microtransactions, which are currently rumored to have ridiculous pricing for skins, although it isn't confirmed, I expect monthly, or at the very least updates every 2 months with good content that we can actually sink our teeth into and enjoy. I want this DLC to be scheduled, functional, and enjoyable. I want transparent communication from the developers, but I understand that from EA, I may be asking for a little bit too much because of the company's reputation. I want Anthem to be good. I'm going to be playing and covering Anthem on my YouTube channel, but after playing the demo and hearing more about it, I just can't shake the feeling of being skeptical. With all that being said, I hope you enjoyed my first ever Anthem video. You'll have noticed that I branded my channel around it kinda by taking the gradient that they used in their text and applying it to my channel art. I think it looks pretty cool. But if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button below. If you want to see more Anthem content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.